Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
Hold one, Andre.
You're not good at this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
Oh my God!
Sorry, no speak English.
Dummy. Goodbye and good night. Hold two, on bar.
It's still real to me, damn it!
Dummy.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
Hold three, Tomas covers, three-handle family Gradunzel.
Mamma mia!
And now, Unchained.media presents the B Plus Podcast with your host, Greg Unchained.
It's me, Austin! It was me all along, Austin!
Number 4, Armbar.
I will never retire!
I still got 200 more. I got 200 more holes to list.
B Plus Brotherhood, good afternoon. It is me, your man of mystery. Welcome to All The Rest here with me. I am your host, Mr Myster1ous, and here we're going to cover all the wrestling news that we don't fit into our usual programming. If you don't know by now, we've got a podcast for everything. We've got podcasts for Impact, for Ring of Honor, CMML, all the wrestling news from WWE, and of course bonus episodes that we have from our Patreon supporters. Look forward to that, guys. We've got a couple lined up we're really looking forward to. And of course, for our dedicated Aussie Graps channel, where we talk to an Australian wrestling star or someone who's helping to grow the Australian wrestling scene in some way. But today, you're listening to me, and we have got a good series of stories to tell you today. A little bit of housekeeping. I've got a little bit of birthday news here at the time I'm recording. Wish a happy 50th birthday to Gangrel, former member of the Ministry of Darkness, the Brood. Yeah, nice little... He's made sporadic appearances here and there in MLW, which I'll touch on in a minute. And I've just got burned into my mind Big E as Gangrel during their Halloween-themed SmackDown episode. I think that will never go away. But happy birthday to him, the Big 50. Big congratulations. So we have a couple of news stories to cover. We got some MLW news, got some AEW, got some NWA, and just all the hot topic news. We'll best start off with MLW episode 44, main evented by Brian Pillman Jr. versus Tommy Dreamer, both with mystery partners. Now, interestingly enough, this is episode 44. Before Superfight, we had episode 41. So I feel like episode 42 was meant to be an empty arena match with Tommy Dreamer and Brian Pillman. So whether or not they show that, I don't know. That might still be future taping. But it seems like I remember saying very specifically, I'm not a fan of empty arena matches because they usually turn out pretty terrible. So depending on how that one went, they might be trying to edit the crap out of it. But I digress. For this one, so episode 44, you'll just go through that. I needed a good palate cleanser from Superfight. If you listen to our last week's episode, Greg and I compared Superfight to Bad Sex. Did this episode help get that thought out of my mind? Not really, unfortunately. We started off with a few things. We had Myron Reed versus DJZ. Myron Reed was the heel for this match. Pretty standard stuff. I'll go through it. Myron Reed won with the tights by holding the tights against DJZ. He focused on his neck, according to him. According to Matt Stryker, he's got a history of neck injuries for that one. These are pretty strong stuff. He's still hitting cutters everywhere. He didn't do his jump over the top rope cutter. I still stand that should be his bloody finisher, and I will keep repeating that every time Myron Reed is on screen. But then we had the next match, of course, with Gringo Loco versus the Puma King, and surprisingly, Gringo Loco won. I think this is his first win in MLW. Matt Stryker was explaining to us Rudo and Technico, essentially like red mask, blue mask, heel face. He was explaining to us that literally for this match, Gringo Loco was the heel, which, yeah, I'll not dive into that one too much. But it was really good to see both Puma King and Gringo. They're still relatively new in the land of MLW, so a loss to Puma King isn't too big of a deal because he's still finding his footing in MLW. He had that win over MJF in that flag match before he suffered his neck injury. So it was good to see just a little bit of lucha action on the land of MLW. We had some H2 TV where Brian Pillman and Teddy Hart are going over their Valentine's plans, where Teddy Hart revealed that he has 35 cats. We mentioned last week that Greg is not a cat person, and I think after that news, Greg will never trust Teddy Hart ever again. I'm sorry, everyone. So we had a couple promos during all this because MJF got schooled by Teddy Hart during super fights after he tried to confront him in the showers. And Teddy Hart, just like my friend, pissed off and joined the Elite. Now MJF is doing a backstage promo where he's going there. He's addressing Teddy Hart's checkered past, saying, "I've never been to jail. I've never done drugs. People should be calling me MJF, your savior. Thank you, MJF." So we're touching on that thing now, which is, of course, it gives MJF a little bit more of his heat back, which is going into episode 45, which is main evented. So MJF will get his rematch for the title that he never lost against Teddy Hart. That will be an interesting contest, to say the least. We had a couple other promos throughout the night. We had the package with Jimmy Havoc saying that he's returning. And yeah, we had, of course, to end the night, we had Tom Lawler coming out of a gentleman's club. It said gentleman's club, I believe, with his gold. So there's something about champions, how they celebrate with their belts. It's just like Tommaso Ciampa and Goldie, that it's just something about it. It's just like that's cute. I enjoy that. Now, the main event for this episode, Brian Pillman Jr. with a mystery partner versus Tommy Dreamer and a mystery partner. I hated this. Now, I try and stay positive with a lot of MLW stories, and I stay positive with a lot of the wrestling stories that I cover. But I'll be honest, guys, this one really let me down, and I'll explain why. So, for weeks, we've been building up again. MLW, good at building up to things. So for weeks, we tried who's going to be their mystery partners. And I liked, before the announcement, Brian Pillman came out saying that, "Oh, because my dad had a lot of history here, you think I'm going to pick some washed up extreme wrestler." Ooh. He's just egging on the crowd, and like that's textbook Brian Pillman, textbook Heart Foundation. I love that. But then he just outwardly says, like, "I'm picking Davey Boy Smith." So this is still all the episodes from Super Fight that we haven't seen yet. So Davey Boy did double booking for Super Fight, and this just sucks because if he was always going to pick a member of the Heart Foundation, they should have just said it. Like, they should have just said the Heart Foundation, Pillman and Davey Boy versus Tommy Dreamer and a mystery partner. Keep that, because if you say that he's going to have someone else, you think, oh, the Heart Foundation might have a new ally, a new member. And I was gunning, damn it, for Benoit Jr. For the love of God. I was really hoping that would have been the perfect scenario for him to just come out, ally himself with the Heart Foundation, but no, we had to have Davey Boy. It could have been, we mentioned last week, like Brian Pillman was on an episode of Being the Elite with the Young Bucks. Like, they were at a show together. They're just casually talking, just like, I would have loved to see a member of the Elite pop up, or just even MJF, because MJF is now a part of All Elite Wrestling. He could have joined Brian Pillman for that match, then after they won, could have said, "F you, I want my title back, bring me Teddy Hart." All of these scenarios would have been great. So that was a little bit of a bummer. And then Tommy Dreamer picked his mystery partner, I should say, the Sandman. And I have not seen Sandman wrestle since the WWE era of ECW. So that was over a decade ago. I believe he's semi-retired. and he looked terrible. He looked, as I was looking forward to, so long as Tommy Dreamer picked someone who could still go or go at a faster pace than him, I would have been happy. Like, he could have picked RVD, he could have picked Bully Ray, he could have picked like Sabu, some wrestler who, because Tommy Dreamer is a very slow-paced wrestler as it is, so you need someone to kind of offset him. And Sandman did not help. He spent about 5 minutes, probably longer than his time in the actual match itself, walking around the ring while his theme song was playing, giving fans drinks, and then rubbing his face between a girl's tits. That's essentially all he did. He's just like reliving, like, he did not give a shit about what was going on in the ring. He just walked around. And for some reason, Teddy Hart was there. Like, Sandman was walking around the ring. He just casually shakes Teddy Hart's hand while he's holding Mr. Velvet. Just like, for God's sakes, act like you hate the Hart Foundation, Sandman, you bloody moron. But yeah, that's my, like, so before we even get into the match as well, that was the problems I had with it. And then the whole match itself, apparently it was referee's discretion. There was no mention of that. And of course, the right result was that Davey Boy and Brian Pillman won, which I kind of knew because, again, this is from the Superfight show, and the Hart Foundation was celebrating in the showers last week with all their gold, which wouldn't have made sense if Brian Pillman had lost, and they would have been pissed off. So I kind of knew that going in, if you thought about it logically. But yeah, we had an appearance from the Blue Meanie during this episode, which he did hiding under that ring since 1997. It was just sad. It was just a whole sad affair. Like, Sandman didn't really contribute to the match. Tommy Dreamer, bless him, he did a lot of moves that he doesn't usually do. He did a cutter at one stage. Like, he did a lot of fast-paced. He had a bit of a more fast-paced arsenal for this match, but ultimately, Davey Boy and Brian Pillman powerbombs Tommy Dreamer through 2 steel chairs. 1, 2, 3. Hart Foundation win and remain undefeated going into the next episodes of MLW and building up to their next event, Intimidation Games, on March 2nd. So we've already got announced for that some really big headline matches. We've got the Puma King going up against Hijo de LA Park. We've got Pentagon Jr. and Ray Phoenix versus Laredo Kid and Taurus, who they ended this show by saying there was a bit of hubbub, of course, with Lucha Brothers and now with All Elite. Will they still stay with MLW? Yes, they will. So I didn't realize that it was I didn't realize it was up in the air. I just naturally assumed that they were going to still be with MLW. And my fears were, like, I didn't have to worry at all because, yeah, they said, we're going to prove that we are the best tag team all over the world. So it doesn't matter where they end up. They're still going to be working with MLW. Probably not at as much of a fast pace. Not as much on a consistent basis as they have been, but they are still going to be a part of MLW. So very happy for that. We have LA Park announced to go up against Mance Warner in a death match. We still haven't seen Mance Warner's debut yet with the MLW episodes, so we've got to look out for that. Eddie match with LA Park is fantastic. I'm just harkening back to his match, episode 41 with Sami Callihan. Watch it. It is brilliant. It's one of the best matches you'll see for 2019. And we have the rematch, the anticipated rematch, Tom Lawler versus Low Ki in a cage match for the MLW Championship. Hopefully this one doesn't go for about 4 minutes. I do look forward to that one, and I'm sure they're not going to do the same result again, but again, last week was disappointing, and this week didn't really do much to help with that either. So future episodes of MLW, they're actually moved to Saturday now. So while the time I'm recording, so MLW have changed their release date of their show from Fridays to Saturdays. So when we get it here in Australia on Sunday morning, so now it's going to be Monday mornings, it shouldn't impact us in any way. So rest assured, we will still be reporting all the rest and all the MLW news accordingly on a weekly basis. So it hasn't impacted us at all. But just so you guys know. So MLW 45, as I mentioned before, Teddy Hart versus MJF for the middleweight title. That's going to be the main event. We've got some other matches there booked for Rich Swann versus Ace Austin, Alex Hammerstone versus Ariel Dominguez, and apparently some H2 TV with Davey Boy in it. It only took like 5-6 episodes, but Davey Boy's actually going to be on H2 TV, so we'll look forward to that. Now, over to a little bit of AEW news, and specifically the Elite. The Elite. Episode 138, Alpha and Omega, The Road to Double or Nothing. So this episode started with the Elite at a Super Bowl game, and the Young Bucks are watching the match, and their producer just like, take off your shirt. Like, he's wearing one of the opposing teams. I'm not going to pretend like I know American football, but he's wearing one of the other team's jerseys, and they're saying, take it off, it's a disgrace, you should not. Like, they're hearkening back to the fact that the WWE security team made an AEW fan take off their shirt at a WWE SmackDown show, which was disgusting to do, and it only just made AEW's credibility as like the new thing and more inclusive, and yeah, it only helped AEW to say the least. But it was a nice little intro just to say that, yeah, these guys are doing a lot better job than you ever did. So it was a nice little harken back to that. We had FCU and Cody sharing cigars. Kazarian tries to tell the Snicker story, but then Christopher Daniels comes out in a mouth guard. We still haven't seen what he looks like with his chipped tooth. So he's calling them all dicks because he refuses to take out the mouth guard, which I don't know why he's persisting, because if they were gonna keep up with this gimmick, you think he would have had that during the announcement party, you know? So if we really focus on the announcement party, we could probably see what his teeth look like. But I digress. We had another appearance with Hangman Page and Cody at a show. I believe it was not Hella High Water. No, I won't say it for fear of being wrong, but Cody brought out Pharaoh Dog, and he helped save Joey Ryan, which is becoming a thing now, that the Elite are continuously saving Joey Ryan. And MJF came out to help out Cody, and the Elite too, I guess, by proxy. But when they clear out the ring, Joey Ryan is watching MJF be an asshole. So he could be a perfect witness for future episodes of being the Elite. After they clear the ring, Cody goes to celebrate with the crowd. He hugs everyone. Hangman Page goes to hug MJF and just the bird right in his face while Cody's not looking. It was perfectly timed. And Hangman goes to choke MJF out, but then he quickly goes in for the hug before Cody can see. It is brilliant how timed they are doing all this. I am really looking forward to the future altercations that Cody will have when he finds out what MJF really is, which, MJF, man, don't break Cody's heart. Like, he's a soft soul. Just let whatever happens, just look after him, dude. We had the latest episode of Joey Janela trying shit. So we've had Joey Janela try magic. He's tried construction. Like, what's he trying this week? He's trying farming. He's terrible at farming. He's on a tractor, and he's just like, I think he got his hand caught under one of the tires. He's just like screaming out in pain, just watch it. It's just hilarious. We had Cody and the Young Bucks just schooling Joey Ryan, just saying like, dude, this is like the third time. You need to look after yourself. This is getting like ridiculous. And Cody and the Young Bucks, they're kind of bickering themselves, saying like, I'm the EVP. I don't have time for this shit. And it's like, yeah, well, I'm the EVP, and this is ruining my schedule. They keep circling around. They didn't bicker at each other, but they made sure to let everyone else know that, no, I'm also an EVP. I can imagine what will happen when Omega is in the room with them as well, just saying like, wait, I'm the EVP too. Like, focusing on how they're going to balance 4 executive vice presidents with All Elite Wrestling. So the moment the Elite leave, the cameraman attacks Joey Ryan, right? So even the cameraman is out to get Joey Ryan Joey Ryan is defenseless against everybody. And then the Young Bucks came back and they said, pissed off Cameron, do we really have to deal with this shit? Do we really have to deal with this shit? It's ridiculous. So, yeah, poor Joey Ryan. It's not his fault. He just needs to look after himself a bit better, is all. So, we moved on to towards the end of the show. Of course, we went back to the Super Bowl match. Adam Page went through the seeding map for Double or Nothing, where he explained exactly where he was going to throw Pac out the ring, saying that he'll be in fine form going into Double or Nothing. And we ended Double or Nothing with the footage from the announcement party where Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho had their little spat. And it's now official for AEW Double or Nothing. We have Alpha versus Omega 2, Kenny Omega versus Chris Jericho, May 25th in Las Vegas. And we had an episode of Double or Nothing, the Road to Double or Nothing, also reveal a bit more about the card. So at the time I'm recording, we've also got Pac versus Hangman Page. And now, with the Road to Double or Nothing episode, we have Nyla Rose versus Britt Baker versus Kylie Ray. That is already looking like a great card. And of course, SCU going up against some of the stars from OVW. So, was it OWE? I do apologize. But yeah, some of the stars from China. And that's, if you've never watched those guys over there, they are working on a style of fast-paced wrestling that is unlike anything you've ever seen. Like, people have compared it to Power Rangers, how fluid it is. Like, literally, like, look it up, guys. I kid you not, it looks amazing what they do. Double or Nothing is going to be really great. So, I'm going to cut to 10 pounds of gold. Damn it. Like, every week. Like, so last week, we had a little bit more NWA news, which was good, but no 10 pounds of gold episode. Like, for God's sakes, Billy Corgan, I crave this shit. You hear me? I crave this stuff. So, although we didn't get that news, we did get an episode from the NWA YouTube channel where highlighting the Crockett Cup, which is happening end of April, which will be main evented by Nick Aldis going up against the villain, Marty Scurll. So he's saying that all his friends are dead, so he's officially no longer a member of the Elite at the moment, saying how all his friends are dead and Nick Aldis has been a friend of his for about 15 years and he owes him, and he's asking him for one more favor to main event the Crockett Cup, facing off for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. Of all the challenges that Nick has had, Marty would be a great one to win, like the one who could finally dethrone Nick. I don't think it's going to happen, but if there's anyone who has more of a chance than the stars that have come before, I reckon Marty has a better chance. And Marty could travel around, and like, if Marty was the NWA champion going into All Out, which is the sequel to All In, we'll mention that later on. I could see that personally. Like, I would be fine with Aldis winning and continuing. Like, I feel like Aldis versus Cody 3 at All Out is the go-to match, but that remains to be seen. So yeah, that is the rundown of MLW, AEW, and NWA. I'll cut to all the other wrestling news in a sec after hearing from our sponsors.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Sorry to interrupt the podcast, B-Plus players, but I just need to take a second to tell you about Threadbox. Threadbox is a subscription service for men that makes looking good easier than ever before. Just fill out a few questions to start building your style profile, and from there you will be paired with a stylist who will send you new threads once a month, so you don't have to worry about checking the stores and finding new clothes. It's like having a personal shopper and stylist at your fingertips, and you just sit back, relax, wait for your awesome new gear to arrive in the mail. They sent me a box this month. I got a new pair of jeans. I got 2 shirts. You can check out the unboxing video on the Facebook page. And the best part about it is you can get in touch with your stylist by email at any time. So if you need new singlets, if you need new long sleeves, if you need new shoes, if there's something specific you want, you just let them know what you need and they'll tailor the box to your specific requests. It's a completely personalized service available on any budget. You'll always get way more value than you pay for because Threadbox work with all the best brands. Boxes start from just $40, and if you use our code, the B+15 at checkout today, you're going to get 15% off your first box. So what are you waiting for, man? Like, if you want to look better with less effort, head to threadbox.com.au and use the code the B+15 to get your box today. We are all WWE fans here. It's why we're here, listening to this show and spending inordinate amounts of hours consuming, complaining, and just generally eating, sleeping, and breathing professional wrestling. But if you want to take that to the next level, the only place to do it is WrestleMania 35 in the city so nice that they named it twice New York. And our new friends at All Aussie Travelers are going to help you make that happen in the best way possible. They are new to the wrestling travel game, granted, but they have over 15 years experience in sports and event tours between the US and Australia, so you know you're in good hands. They want to offer you an exclusive WrestleMania package, including return flights to the USA, 6 nights at the New Yorker hotel right next to Times Square. And the thing that sets these packages apart are the VIP suites that AAT have secured for WrestleMania. So that's, of course, the Raw after WrestleMania. So not only are you going to go to the Hall of Fame, not only are you going to go to WrestleMania 35, but for NXT TakeOver, SmackDown Live, and the Raw immediately after WrestleMania that next night, you are going to be in an exclusive VIP suite that is not normally available to the public. But AAT, they got it locked down. They got it waiting for you with your name on it, your own private entrance, your own private toilets and bar, as well as an unparalleled view in the most comfortable seats in the house. You can experience WrestleMania weekend like never before, all at really competitive prices. So head over to All Aussie Travelers on Facebook, hit that like button, send them a message, send an email to Jack, that's JAAK, at allaussie.com.au, and let them know the B Plus sent you.
And we are back, guys. Second half, all the rest. Let's get the groundwork started with the injury list. Few people off the bench, some new people on it. I just mentioned some NWA and some AEW news before, so I'll harken back to Cody Rhodes, who had successful arthroscopic knee surgery done over this weekend, and he'll be out of action for 2 to 3 months. Now, before you freak out, Cody is not scheduled to face anybody until Double or Nothing in May. So his recovery time is about 2 to 3 months, which is the exact amount of time he needs before he faces off against mystery partner. We still don't know who he's facing with Double or Nothing. They're really playing very tongue-in-cheek on the Road to Double or Nothing episodes about who he's actually facing. So it feels, and all they've said is that it's someone personal. Like, could it be Flip Gordon? Could it be Dean Ambrose? Like, who has WWE screwed over more? Cody versus Dean. Get into it. Bye. So Cody's on the bench, but it's not going to be a really big thing, guys. Mustafa Ali, if you hadn't seen this past SmackDown, he is now out of the WWE Elimination Chamber match for the championship due to a concussion, and he was replaced by Kofi Kingston in one of the best episodes of SmackDown I've seen in a while. Watch that gauntlet match to see who gets placed last in the Elimination Chamber. Like, it is, Kofi Kingston is the standout, and there's a reason that he's been wrestling with WWE for nearly 11 years, and he is if I remember right, he has been champion for the longest amount of days than anyone else in WWE modern history. So that he's like one of the longest reigning tag champions, and through his reigns, he's held a championship longer than anyone else, like combined reign, is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, it was a very good match for that one. And of course, Rey Fenix. So no sooner had he got over his groin injury and lost the tag titles to Heart Foundation and MLW, that he suffered a muscle contusion at a AAW event in America, no relation to the All Action Wrestling event in Australia. He got stretched out, but he's rest assured everyone that he should just be off the shelf for about 2 weeks or so. So it's not damaging to their plans at Double or Nothing or to MLW Intimidation Games. They should be back in fighting form at a later date. So the Lucha Brothers are still on fire. No injury is going to keep them down. Off the bench, we had Sasha. So I mentioned last week, guys, that Sasha might have undisclosed injury that she wasn't cleared after her Royal Rumble match with Ronda Rousey, and now it seems like she's been given the go-ahead to compete in the Elimination Chamber match to crown the inaugural Women's Tag Team Champions. So, according to Dave Meltzer, apparently she re-aggravated a shoulder injury. So, and she last week in a match with Bayley was the one who mainly took over the match, while Sasha just did a couple things. In the latest episode of Raw, you notice that Sasha did a big dive onto the outside, so that was kind of her way of saying like, yeah, I'm cleared, I'm good to go. So that's always good to see. So yeah, let's get on to some WWE news. So, harkening back to the women's division, hey, remember that on last week's episode when we said we had Dean Ambrose versus Nia Jax? Yeah, that ain't happening no more. Apparently, according to WWE, because it was reported that in Arkansas that it would be on February 22nd, it would be a intergender special attraction is how it was booked as. But according to WWE, it's not happening in that it was outdated information. To that I say, bullshit. What I think's happened is, because I said it last week, it seems like WWE are testing the waters with their intergender wrestling, seeing what they can get away with, right? And what they can't. And if they were going to, as much as I don't like Nia Jax as a character, but if they're going to pick any two stars to try and test the waters for intergender wrestling, you pick Dean Ambrose, someone who is leaving the company in a couple months, and you have Nia Jax, who is not your average woman. So she can play off that idea of physicality more, that it should be more accepted if intergender wrestling was to become more of a commonplace thing in WWE. But I feel like someone complained, like one of the sponsors complained and just went like, nah, not happening. So yeah, that seems like what's happened there for me personally. So it seems like WWE have a little bit of issues with Dean Ambrose as of late, like especially after the latest promo that he did. I say promo, he said one sentence because Seth Rollins was, if you watch this past Raw, I think we covered this in the Fusion WWE Universe with CJ and Danders, saying how Rollins cut a promo on Brock Lesnar saying that he's going to slay the beast, that he will do whatever it takes to win, like he's going to be a martyr to just take that title off Brock, which it seems like he's going to be the one to do it. But then Dean Ambrose comes out and he says, I've got one thing to say to you, slay the beast. Gives him back the mic, pisses off. Apparently that was not what meant to happen. Apparently Dean Ambrose, I should say, was meant to go on this big story about their history in the Shield and their history as partners. They're going to touch on Roman Reigns, of course, because they would have had to. And before ultimately arcing down to, I have one thing to say to you, slay the beast, implying that Dean Ambrose is now friends again with Seth Rollins. So Dean Ambrose, if true, this is allegedly, if true, so Dean Ambrose just cut away all the fluff and just said the one sentence and pissed off. Which, what else are they going to do? Fire him? He's already going to be leaving soon, so I'm curious if there's going to be any repercussions in the later weeks, because they seem to be giving Dean Ambrose just short shift. He's just, he got his win back over EC3 during Raw, which was nice. But yeah, it seems like Dean Ambrose is going to be cannon fodder for the next couple months until he leaves. And then who knows, maybe he will be a part of AEW, like I mentioned earlier. We had the latest episode. We had the latest line of NXT recruits announced by WWE at the Performance Center. There were some notable names from Australia, like Elliot Sexton and the King of Monsters, TMDK Jonah Rock. Good old big boy there representing. For those of you who, there was a lot of big names in that big class of Performance Center talent. You had Sam Shaw there. Like, there's a whole bunch of stars that are really going to do well if they manage to find themselves onto the NXT brand or to the main roster. Like, my God, they are all very talented people. But one name, according to Dave Meltzer, that was not in that photo, who's still a mystery, Kushida, the former IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion. Apparently, the idea was for him to. So it's believed that he has signed with that class of NXT talent, but that they're keeping his signing a mystery at the moment. So perhaps we'll see him at the next NXT event in the crowd, kind of like what they did with Asuka when she first started out with NXT, just casually watching, observing, like a little Easter egg in the crowd, if you've noticed. So, like how they did it with Matt Riddle as well. So I think that's what they'll do. I do think Kushida is actually going to WWE. I don't think that is a big mystery personally, but of course he may just be moving on to other things. So I would love Kushida to be a part of NXT. Who wouldn't? There's been a lot of weird news around with WWE actually. So as I'm going through it with you guys, The Undertaker is going to be appearing at Starrcast 2, which actually I should say The Undertaker because according to how he's billed, it's billed verbatim as Mark Calloway, aka The Undertaker, will be appearing at Starrcast. So while Double or Nothing is happening in Las Vegas, Starrcast is also happening. Same area, same time, and it's going to have a whole bunch of WWE legends. Like one of them was Bret the Hitman Hart, I think we mentioned last week. It's been announced that his panel is like the sharpshooter, like something to the effect of the sharpshooter in his own words, like Bret in his own words or something like that. But this news with Mark Calloway, I should be just referring to as Mark Calloway now. The veil is gone. Like the Undertaker, is he retired now? It feels like the Undertaker is assessing his options. Like we mentioned last week that he is now taking non-WWE bookings for over 25,000 US an hour, apparently, if believed. So I don't know how much Starrcast forked out to get Undertaker on the event, but it must be a huge sum, which they'll probably get back, of course, because it's like Mark Calloway, it's the Undertaker. But yeah, the veil is gone. Like Mark Calloway has his socials. I mean, like his last match was against John Cena at WrestleMania, which he won, which is nice. But it seems like he doesn't have a partner for this year's WrestleMania. I think he's just really looking forward to just no longer being a part of WWE anymore and not holding up that legacy, which I don't know how to process that, to be honest. I mean, The Undertaker has had this aura about him for the better part of 30 years, and now it doesn't seem all that important, which, I don't know, very confusing times to be a wrestling fan, especially if you're a WWE fan, to say the least. I've got a few more WWE stories here, guys. I should touch on this. Jimmy Uso was arrested earlier in the week for drunken disorderly conduct. For those of you who don't know, I believe Jimmy and Naomi were driving a car. They got pulled over by the police. Apparently, the car reeked of alcohol. They went to, they were questioning Naomi, and Jimmy got a little bit aggressive. Apparently, got out of the car despite police's warnings. They thought that he was going to attack them. He took off his shirt. They were going to tase him, but they didn't have to, fortunately. And yeah, they brought him to jail, where he got bailed out later. But yeah, WWE has since released a statement saying that Jimmy Uso is responsible for his own actions. Like that is all they said. One sentence. Like they refer to him as his actual name. I think Jonathan Fatu is responsible for his own actions. Which, those of you thinking like, oh shit, like the Usos are in deep trouble now. No, I mean it's a silly situation to be in, to be sure. But I remember, was it earlier this year or last year when Jey Uso was pulled over for a DUI, like driving under the influence, and like he was still wrestling like the week after or the month after. So I don't see it as being a big deal. Like I didn't think, of course, they have their match this weekend at Elimination Chamber against the greatest professional wrestler in the world, Shane McMahon, and The Miz, the co-besties. I don't see them winning regardless. but this kind of cements that anyways if there was going to be any like quote repercussions. So yeah, I feel like Jimmy and Jay, they're it was not as big of a deal in WWE's mind, saying like you two are big boys, you're responsible for your own actions, you do what you want. But just yeah, understand they're representing the brand. So yeah, definitely not going to be winning the tag titles this weekend. If they do, I'd be very surprised. But yeah, it's just a silly situation just to be reporting on. So for those of you who didn't know, guys, now you know. With WWE news, apparently WWE have got their own Netflix movie universe lined up. I shit you not. So what's happening is WWE have planned to have their own Netflix movie universe with, I believe, the first title of the first movie called The Main Event, where it's focusing on a little 10-year-old kid and his journey to wanting to become a professional wrestler. Blah, tongue-tied there. Professional wrestler. It's going to have appearances from stars like John Cena and Bray Wyatt. And, like, this is, of course, really good for the WWE universe, of course, as a whole, like, branching out. Good for WWE, the company, which, like, good on them. But at the same time, what the hell are we paying for the WWE network for? If they've got this Netflix universe lined up, this family-friendly Netflix universe, why are people paying $9.99 or however much it is now to watch the Marine whatever? Like, it seems like if WWE wanted a movie universe, why wouldn't they have wouldn't they release more movies like, of course, the next installment of the Marine or the next installment of See No Evil, you know, all this shit. Like, as much as it's good news and it will be very profitable for WWE, do not get me wrong, but why I'm very confused why WWE fans should pay for both the network and Netflix if that's going to be a thing. So if they're not also going to have those movies on the WWE network. So very confusing there. It's a good universe it's a good, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a good company to align with, especially during this time. So Marvel, I believe, is slowly kind of phasing out their involvement with Netflix, with all the Netflix shows being cancelled. Damn it, with Daredevil and all the other ones, it still hurts. So yeah, the Netflix do need something to fill that void, and will WWE fill that completely? No, but it will be something, and that's kind of all we can hope for. So good news for them, a little bit confusing, but we'll move on from there. We've got some other WWE news here with the Revival wanting to bring back the old tag titles. So this past Raw, we have new Raw Tag Team Champions in the form of the Revival. Finally. And they're kind of being a bit cheeky on Twitter and saying that they want the original tag titles back from like the 80s and 90s. They even put a picture up on their Twitter showing what it would look like with them at the belts. And which to the fact that Scott Dawson actually said, I prefer to call them belts, which is a nod to Vince McMahon's detestment at the term belts instead of championships. So he hates the term belts, for those of you who didn't know. So they're being very cheeky. I mean, if we have a WWE champion who's got a marijuana belt, like, why can't the Revival have the old tag team title belts? It's not going to happen, like, because the tag title belts they're branded for both Raw and SmackDown now. So if they were ever going to bring back the old titles, they would have to merge the tag team division and have the tag champions float back and forth between Raw and SmackDown, akin to how it used to be when they unified the World Tag Team and WWE Tag Team Championships, when they had both the belts on. Then they changed it to those little bronze tag title belts, which looked disgraceful. So it's happened before. I don't see them uniting the tag division again like that, because as much as they should, maybe to help bring a little bit of a bit more positivity to the tag team division. But yeah, this is just the Revival being cheeky on Twitter. As much as it would be lovely, and just like if they ever did bring them back, like in like a storyline kind of thing, like not actually replace them, but they actually found the original tag titles and brought them out. That would be a cool little segment. So I think I've just run through all the WWE news, guys. So let's move on to all the other news around with AEW. Now, this will be a nice little segue talk. Like we mentioned last week, how there's been certain stars who, of course, everyone apparently is joining AEW now. Apparently, everyone. Like last week, was saying Randy Orton might be joining AEW, like according to the stories. And of course, with Undertaker being a part of Starcast, there's rumors that he might be a part of AEW, which is complete like ridiculous. Like especially if his fear is to be believed, I don't see Undertaker doing anything like that. And the latest name to apparently have been in talks with AEW was the Animal, Drax the Destroyer, Batista. So earlier in the week, this story's kind of evolved as we've reported on it for you guys on the Facebook page. But essentially, with Batista's main event up in the air, how it's going to be Batista versus Triple H, with Triple H then doing his peck at Crown Jewel, putting that main event in a little bit of grey territory. I say main event, it wouldn't be the main event, but putting that match in a little bit of grey territory there. So I believe Triple H is still on the mend. He's actually saying that he's just focusing on putting himself back in fighting form. So he's not injured still. So there's still a chance of them maybe doing that match. But all the while, it was reported that it was reported that Batista was in talks with AEW as well, like wanting to try and work with them and WWE at the same time. So according to the latest reports, it's just that he's only interested in working with WWE, that he was just talking to the AEW guys, which very tongue-in-cheek, because I believe there was a photo that got released with Chris Jericho and Batista that Chris Jericho put up on his socials. So very sly of Chris Jericho. Never trust that man on social media. Like everything he does on social media, just hold your reservations until the truth comes out. So, especially with the news of his Rockin' Wrestling Rager 2 cruise happening in January 2020 next year. So, last year the cruise was a success, and this year, or the next year I should say, so it will be returning. This time though, if you see the posters, with AEW stars. So last year it was mainly stars from Ring of Honor being advertised on the posters, and of course they had some stars from New Japan. They had the Alpha Club versus the Bullet Club, that whole match there. So yeah, this not really a bit of a shock, but it's worth mentioning the fact that AEW have now got another kind of venue to look forward to during their later dates. So I am looking forward to how the AEW stars will perform on that cruise, and again, like making that perform under the All Elite Wrestling banner is only going to be a positive. Like it's going to just once again be one of those things that shows that All Elite Wrestling is the next best thing coming up in the world of professional wrestling. Like according to, I think Bully Ray referred to All Elite Wrestling as the Facebook of professional wrestling promotions, which I'd say that's about right. They're doing according to him, all the cool shit. So if you guys don't know, like All Elite Wrestling, we've know the rundown schedule for their dates leading up to their weekly TV screening. So of course we have May 25th is Double or Nothing at the MGM Grand Arena in Las Vegas. June 2019, they do have an unspecified US show, unspecified as of yet. So July 2019, there's an event in Jacksonville. On August, they'll be doing a UK show at the Royal Albert Hall in London. And we've got September 2019, All Out in Chicago. That one will be, I'm very much looking forward to that, guys. Like if you haven't seen All In yet, if you just heard the buzz about All In, please go watch it. And of course, in October 2019, they start their weekly TV taping. So very consistent schedule. And then, of course, as we mentioned, January 2020, the Chris Jericho cruise. That will be fantastic. And like with all the AEW news, like I should point out, guys, They sold out Double or Nothing in under 4 minutes. Like last year for All In, they filled their 10,000 ticket quota, 11,000 ticket quota in about half an hour. I think that, if I'm remembering that correctly. But like, it's pretty brilliant how they did it. So the sellout was more on the pre-sale. Like, it's brilliant marketing. You got to give it to them. So, because remember at the ticket announcement party, they said anyone who shows their interest at the time of the ticket party announcement will have their tickets reserved. Not that their ticket in line to buy the tickets reserved, right? So they knew that they could resell at least 10,000 tickets. So they did a huge resale, guaranteeing a fast as hell sellout for whatever was left. That's brilliant. Like, I didn't think there was any doubt, but the fact that they did it in 4 minutes, let me just put this in perspective. They sold their tickets in the same amount of time that Tom Lawler defeated Low-Ki for the MLW Heavyweight Championship. Yeah, in that same amount of time where something really bad happened in the land of MLW, something really good happened with All Elite Wrestling. So it's all relative, guys. It's all relative. So it's nice to know that the fact that everyone is buzzing about all the AEW news, like, and it should be positive because, my God, as much as there's been a lot of positivity that's come out this week about All Elite Wrestling, there's been some bullshit as well, which I am going to talk about. I need to discuss this. So, the chief branding officer, Brandy Rhodes, has gone on to the socials and she has reaffirmed All Elite Wrestling's stance on the fact that they are inclusive. Like, the fact that I'll read Brandy's statement saying, "Let's take this opportunity to make it clear that AEW is totally inclusive. We fully support and celebrate all of our athletes and all of our fans, regardless of their sexual orientation, race, gender, religion, or ethnicity, period. Be who you are and come as you are, because we're all going to come together as a community to change the world." And it feels like a lot of people have forgotten that because there's been a bit of hubbub about some of the transgender stars that have been announced, like Sunny Kiss and Nyla Rose, which is complete bullshit. Like, own up to yourself, guys. Like we need to put the call to arms now, like, especially on the road to Double or Nothing. If you guys listen here now, like, just follow this one advice. Don't be dicks, because like All Elite Wrestling should be the most inclusive form of entertainment in the world. It is like, wrestling is for the outcast. Wrestling is for everyone, no matter what age you are. Like, people get into, like, doesn't matter how old you are. People do their debuts at 60 years old. Like, I've seen it happen. I've heard stories of it happening. It's still happening. Doesn't matter if, like, over in WAW, like, with, of course, the Knight family, like, the stars over there, like, Paige's brother teaches disabled kids how to wrestle. Like, wrestling is the most inclusive thing, not just for wrestlers, but for the fans, right? Over here in WA, like, I see like fans who, like, autistic, like, it's like people with some disabilities or some sort of needs, right? We all come together to watch professional wrestling. It should not matter what race you are. It should not matter what your gender is. It should not matter what your orientation is, because we are all wrestling fans, and that is what matters. And ultimately, what AEW is doing is they're trying to bring us all together and provide something new, something fresh. And we do not need to be focusing on bullshit like, well, like Sunny Kiss, what division is she going to be in? Like, if you've seen Lucha Underground, then there is no point to that question. And, like, of course, with Kenny Omega saying how, like, they're dropping the politics with AEW, the fact that, like, they're breaking down these barriers for All Elite Wrestling, for Double or Nothing. We should be celebrating this, guys. I cannot stress this enough. We should be celebrating this. All Elite Wrestling want to drop the politics. They're saying all the right things, and it feels like, as much as we've been saying, like, we, like, tentatively wait to hear what else they have to say, it feels like as the weeks have gone on, like, no, they're being genuine. They do want to change the world. They do want to give us something new and give something for everybody. So please, I repeat, don't be dicks. Embrace everybody. Everybody love everybody. Damn it. If you love the Will Ferrell movies, you'll know about that one. Like, I've got a couple quick other bits of news here, guys. AEW as well. They're actually in the realm of things we've never seen before, and the idea of providing like sports like entertainment. They're having weigh-ins and press conferences like Ultimate Fighting does, right? That is fantastic. And of course, they've already set up something with Hangman Page not being in, quote, wrestling form, like not being able to appear in full gear until Double or Nothing. They keep saying that he needs to lose some weight compared to Park, who is just chiseled out of marble. Like, I love this. Like, there was reports a couple weeks ago saying that AEW want to keep statistics, right? So not only are they bringing in all these stars from China, they're working with AAA Lucha, but they're also they want to branch out their women's division. I believe Tony Khan came out and said he wants their women's division to be akin to the WCW's cruiserweight division, which, say what you want about WCW and how it ultimately ended for them, but their cruiserweight division was some of the best things you have ever seen. And it's one of those things that if you look at old WCW episodes, it still stands up to this day. Even like one of the stars who came out of that, LA Park, who is LA Park now, only one of the best stars in Mexico, one of the best stars in MLW, right? So all this stuff, like, it seems like AEW are just doing all the right things, and we should be embracing them wholeheartedly, guys. So that's my rant over. I feel like I've just come out of a haze here, but a couple quick stories before we finish off. So we have our little fluff pieces before we end. So if you watch this past SmackDown, you'll know that Miz and Shane McMahon, how he's saying that Shane was going to be on NCIS Los Angeles. And like Miz is always saying stuff like, oh, I'm going to get you this deal, you know, like I'm going to get you on this show and this, that. But it's actually genuine. So Miz has actually spilled the beans and it's actually confirmed that this shit is real because Shane McMahon is actually going to be appearing on NCIS Los Angeles. Like, so he'll be sharing the screen with LL Cool J and Chris O'Donnell. So, so that new episode comes out on the 31st of March. So not for a little while now. Which just in time for WrestleMania. How convenient. Ha ha ha. So we're going to see Shane McMahon just do his little punches against the latest terrorist that comes out in LA. He's going to have a bit of wordplay with Deeks. Like, I'm a fan of NCIS LA. Like, I want Hetty to psych out Shane McMahon, right? I want this little woman to just scare the piss out of this 50-year-old man. Like, it's real. It's weird, right? So it's a nice little bit of like, as much as I was like, I didn't pay it no mind, like, no, this is actually a legitimate story. So look forward to WWE crossing over in the land of outside of their product, especially with Netflix on the horizon. So not only have they got Netflix on the horizon, they'll be invading your small screen soon enough with NCIS Los Angeles. And I'll end as well with John Cena is apparently being looked at to be the next host of Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader on Nickelodeon in America. Now, we've had some Australian iterations of the same thing. I believe Rove was the host back in the early 2000s, late 2000s, if I'm remembering that right, back when he still had his show. Remember Rove McManus, guys? Now I'm showing my age here. But yeah, John Cena, wrestler, actor, acclaimed author, game show host. So, and we'll see. He's performed on the he's been the host of the Nickelodeon Kids Choice Awards, I think. He's done a couple other things here and there, so he definitely has the experience. Like, he's John Cena. He's the leader of the C Nation, 16-time world champion. His acting career is slowly is slowly gaining traction. A lot more so. His appearances at WWE are becoming fewer and fewer, few in between, I should say. So yeah, why not? John Cena, let's see if you are smarter than a fifth grader. Like, if you too are smarter than a fifth grader, if he's going to test himself as well. I would be curious to see how John Cena fares. Of course, he's the host, so, but at the same time, like, check if you haven't looked at the show. Like, it's a very little wholesome show. Like, it doesn't do any harm to everybody, right? So I think that's all the time we've got for today with all the wrestling news, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what we do here, please leave us a comment and please leave us a 5-star review. It really does make a difference because we love to hear from you guys. I mentioned at the start of the show, we have our Patreon now. Any amounts that you can donate to help us create quality content for you guys would be greatly appreciated. All of it goes back into the product and it helps us grow and it helps us evolve. If you want to see all the rest evolve, if you want to see the whole channel evolve, because we are slowly gaining things. We've got our custom episodes. Again, look forward to those in the next couple of weeks. I'm looking forward to really what we have lined up for you guys. Some really exciting stuff. If you want to follow me, I am at Mr Myster1ous with a 1 instead of an I on all the socials. Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. Hit me up, guys. If you want to follow our super producer Greg, he's at Greg Unchained on Twitter or at the Greg Unchained on Instagram. If you want to follow us collectively, we are at the B Plus Wrestle on Twitter because wrestling wouldn't fit, and the B Plus Wrestling everywhere else. So like, share, subscribe, hit that 5-star review, and thank you guys so much for listening. I've been Mr Myster1ous. See you later.
Hold one. Arm drag.
You're not doing this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
Sorry, no speak English.
Dummy. Goodbye and good night. Hold two. Arm bar.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
It's still real to me, damn it. Dummy.